Now we are going to discuss a theory of public expenditure. So that theory is theory of Wagner's hypothesis, that is Wagner's law of public expenditure. So we know public expenditure. Public expenditure is expenditure by the public authority. It may be central government or state government or local bodies such as corporation, panchayat, municipalities. So that public bodies, they spend money for the benefit of public in large, which the individual at their capacity are unable to meet or satisfy efficiently. So such expenditure by the public authority we call public expenditure. So public expenditure is very important for creating and providing public services for the benefit of the society in large, to meet some commitments of the government in a democratic society. So for various purposes, government spend money for meeting the larger interest of the society. So to explain the growth of public expenditure, there are two theories. One is this Wagner's law of public expenditure, another one Peacock-Weizmann hypothesis. Now we discuss about Adolf Wagner's law of public expenditure. So what is that theory? What is that hypothesis? So this hypothesis, Adolf Wagner, he developed in the context of Germany, in the experiences of the growth and the public expenditure growth of Germany. So here he says public expenditure is growing as based on the growth of the economy, based on the growth of economic activities, based on the production of goods and services, the public expenditure is also growing. So this is his first argument. This is growing in a smooth and continuous way. First, to explain the growth and to explain the reasons for public expenditure, he cited three reasons. First reason is the social progress of the society. Social progress of the society comes when a society moves to an industrialized society. The industrialized society is becoming a very advanced society. The government, public authorities have some commitments to the public in providing some public amenities, then in improving the quality and standards of socio-economic life of the people. So this is the first reason for increasing public expenditure, that is social progress, social and cultural progress, to meet the cultural, to meet and conduct cultural events, then to experience, then to conduct new public programs that benefit the society in large. So this is one of the reasons for increasing public expenditure. So this is social progress. Next one is new functions of the state. We know as a society moves from a primitive stage into an industrialized society, there are new economic activities come in within the purview of the state. So as society moves towards progress, as society moves to an industrialized society, there will be urbanization. Then the government is committed and obliged to make payment expenditure for providing public amenities, public drinking water, urban sanitation, urban drinking water. So there are new functions will come. And another reason is when the economy progresses, as in order to meet some new problems, to face new problems and to resolve such issues, governments are compelled to make new laws, new institutions, new systems. Then also the public expenditure will grow. So this is the second reason for increasing public expenditure. And the third reason is provision of public goods, more and more public goods to people. So this is the third reason for increasing public expenditure. We know public goods have these are goods are having non-rivalry and non-excludability in consumption. So nobody should be avoided, nobody should be excluded, and in consuming the public goods, nobody is rival to anybody. So to providing such public goods in larger quantity, the government must increase its public expenditure. So this is a third reason. But Here in the theory, Wagner says the public expenditure is growing in a smooth fashion, in a proportionate way. In the beginning stage, in the graph, that the first graph is PG. There he states public expenditure is growing proportionately. Proportion in the sense that public expenditure grows when the economic activities are going up. When there are more and more economic activities, then the public authorities must make more and more public expenditure. So in that sense, the beginning from the first PG, that graph, that diagram, it is very clear. Public expenditure is growing in proportion to the growth of the economy, the growth of the economic activities. There is an issue here. What is issue is that, but Keynes states public expenditure is essential. More and more public expenditure is essential to increase the level of economic activity or to raise the level of income in the society. But in the Wagner hypothesis, it is stated it is public expenditure is causing public expenditure. Governments make public expenditure because of higher level of economic activity. So this is there is a little bit contradiction between the Keynes view on public expenditure and Wagner's hypothesis on public expenditure. Keynes states the government is committed to make more public expenditure, pumping more money to the economy to raise the level of income, the level of economic activity. That is Keynesian argument. But Adolf Wagner, in his law, he states, and the vice versa. That is, the level of economic activity, more and more economic activity. In common sense, there is more economic growth generates more revenue to the government. That higher growth and higher revenue, that leads to more public expenditure. So this is the argument. But now that argument is valid in the recent case. You must see in the 50s, 60s and 70s, in Indian context, the government of India and the ministers, even the prime ministers, they were convinced of the need for providing employment to all, food security to all, then education to all. But what they did, they put such items like education, then employment and food in the directive principles of state policy. Putting such items in the directive principles of state policy, then the government is implementing such giving more education to all, giving food security to all, then ensuring employment to all through its public policies, in policy of poverty alleviation, alleviating poverty through public distribution system. But if item is put in the directive principles, nobody can question before the court of law. So that nobody can approach the court that I am not given employment, I am not given adequate food, I am not given education. So nobody can challenge such items before the court of law. But now what happened? After 1990s, due to economic reforms, in India we have a higher economic growth of more than 7%, 8% growth for the last 26 and 27 years. The higher growth leads to more revenue to the government. Then the government got the capacity, the fiscal capacity, the confidence, it will legislate on employment, that we know MNREGs, that is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program. This is a law that ensures and assures 100 days employment to all citizens of India. Then about Food Security Act, then Right to Education Act in 2009, all these acts were passed because after the economic reforms, economy experienced higher growth, higher economic activity empowered the fiscal capacity of the government, that increased the public expenditure of the government. So that leads to more and more public expenditure. So in that direction, in that sense, considering the Indian experience after reforms, we can validate the argument of Adolf Wagner comparing to the argument of Keynes. So here public expenditure is growing, as here it is real per capita income in the x axis. here in the diagram we have shown real per capita income. Per capita income is the level of economic activity that we must understand, and the time factor is implicit in this diagram. As level of economic activity increases, then the real per capita output of public goods, that is on the y axis, both are improving in the first case in a proportional manner. But what happens in the later stage? In the beginning stage it was increasing in a proportional manner, but at a later stage what happened? The real per capita output of public goods increased more than proportionately, because as economy progresses, the level of economic activity increases, then the government will spend more amount of expenditure on meeting public education, health, recreation, then and other public benefit programs of the people, because the people will become more demanding. Then these goods, public goods such as education, then recreation, healthcare, these are income elastic goods. As income increases, people will demand more and more such commodities from the government. And Angel's law also validates this argument of Adolf Wagner, that is a higher income leads to higher expenditure on education, health and such public recreation, public welfare programs. So in the later stage what happened? The per capita, real per capita output of public goods increases more than proportionately. That is shown in the curve PG1. PG1 shows more than proportionate increase of public expenditure. So here this is the diagram, and here in the first case, that is PGA, that A subscripts the later stage, and YA that A subscript shows later stage, then the 0 shows earlier stage. So in the first case, PG case, PGA by YA is equal to PG0 by Y0. That means the proportion of economic activity, proportion of national output or income is equal and proportionate to rising the level of output, real per capita public output. So in the first case, PGA by YA is equal to PG0 by Y0. But what happened in the later stage? The later stage, the level of economic activity improved, people become more demanding, there is income elasticity of demand, people demand more public goods such as I said earlier, education, health and public recreation, then other welfare schemes. So the government is in a democratic setup also, the government is more compelled, more forced to provide such goods. So later stage what happened? The PGA by YA becomes greater than PG0 by Y0. That A subscript later stage, 0 subscripts earlier stage. So in the later stage, there will be more than proportionate increase of public goods compared to the level of economic activity. So this is the theory in symbol, but this theory has some limitations. Adolf Wagner developed this theory even prior to the First World War, and he doesn't state what is the form of government existed and what should be the type of government, whether it is democratic or autocratic or some other form of government, that he has not very clearly stated in his theory. And it is too economic, too economic in the sense that it is very narrow. It never considers the socio-economic and the historic roots of the society. This theory becomes relevant only in a society that progresses through industrialization or in the process of industrialization or in the advanced stage of industrialization. This theory may not be applicable in a very agrarian society or in a primitive society. So it will be applicable, or it can be made applicable, or it can be made we can make some sense only in a society that experience industrialization and the later stage of industrialization. So these are the one or two limitations of this theory. But this theory, the core idea of the theory is the public expenditure grows more than proportionate to the level of economic activity, and it contradicts with Keynes' concept of public expenditure. So, this is the symbol, this is the theory of public expenditure.